From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? We have a special guest and a special episode on tap, so I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm always glad when we can connect with this guest. I like that we're doing a special for this. And how are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well. I got to see this guest who we'll introduce in just about a second in person recently, and he's none other than Dan Ferrisi, one of our favorite guests and most frequented. And if you continue to listen after this episode, you will get um, your healthy dose of Dan Ferrisi over the next few weeks. So, welcome back, Dan.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you having me. And yeah, hopefully people tune in. They don't get sick of me too quickly. But thank you again for offering this platform to me. I'm grateful for it.
Absolutely. And if you don't know Dan, please go back to some of our past episodes, 124, 125, 173, 174. Dan is the group editor, commercial and security with Emerald. Today he has his different hat on. Today we're going to talk about an event known as the Total Tech Summit. Not a lot of people may be familiar with this, but this event's been going on for quite some time. I've been to it more than once, and I know that it's been a great experience for a lot of people. So, Dan, I'll open the floor to you to tell us a little bit about Total Tech Summit, what makes it unique, and also the give the audience a little bit of inspiration as to why they may want to apply to attend.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, James, once again for giving me the opportunity to talk about Total Tech Summit. As you said, I work for Emerald, which is both a media company and an events company. Total Tech Summit is a hosted buyer event, which is a very special kind of an event where integrators are actually invited in. We pay the airfare, we pay the hotels, we pay for your meals and your beverages while you're there. So you're our hosted guest for the entirety of Total Tech Summit. And it's really a very high level networking event for cream of the crop integrators, consultants, basically channel leaders. Think about mind sharing with the most entrepreneurial, the most forward thinking, the most revolutionary integration businesses and consultant businesses. We bring executive leadership together for about 36 hours, 48 hours of dedicated networking time, content sessions, and of course, direct access to manufacturers as well, some of the best manufacturers in the industry. I'll just let you know it is November 4th to 6th in San Antonio, Texas, at the JW Marriott San Antonio Hill Country Resort and Spa. And as you mentioned, Steve, you have to apply to attend. So it's a pretty exclusive group who gets to go, but we can get into all the nitty gritty and the details. But that's basically what it is. It is a hosted buyer event for the cream of the crop, most forward thinking, most entrepreneurial integrators and consultants in the world today.
That sums it up very well. And one of the things that I want to point out, and James, I'd like to get your take on this because I know that you are very much a avid reader and somebody who really enjoys professional development and takes an interest in the business side of the industry that we're in. And that's not a conversation that we have all that often. We talk a lot about tech. And I really am also one of the reasons I think that we connect well is that we read some of the same books and we talk about a lot of the same topics. So tell me a little bit about why it's important for us to have business conversations and especially having an event that's more business focused than tech focused, but yet it's an AV event.
Uh, so I'll say real quick, tech is easy, people are hard. So business is, dealing with people a lot. Yeah, you have the technical aspect of running a business. And when I mean by that, I'm not talking about, dealing with technology, but, dealing with, finances and HR and all those procedures. But mainly running a business, you're dealing with people and people are hard. Um, and tech equipment itself is usually consistent. So if I take a camera and I do something to it, or Steve does something to it, the camera has the same functionality. So we can all learn in video. This camera A does this. Now we may use it differently, but people are all different. Steve Dan, I are all different people. We can't, there is no blueprint to saying this is what this person can do and can't do, and this is how to use this person. We all have to learn. And so that comes by discussions, talking, and having conversation and learning and growing and expanding your mind. So that's why it's like a industry event. It's focus on the business aspect. Because besides the people, like I said, there's the other areas, you got to worry about finances. Um, I know many people talk about, oh, I'm gonna go open my own business, but they don't understand the risk that is. I've taken some business classes, and I had a professor told me, perfect scenario, real world perfect scenario, you have to go 3 years with no income. First year, you're going to lose money. Second year, you're going to break even. And the third year, you're hopefully make a profit as a business. But you as a manager owner is basically going 3 years with no income. And a lot of people who start out businesses don't understand that, and they thinking they're going to make a profit right away, and they ended up failing because they don't understand that aspect of the business. They understand the technical. Oh, I know how to throw gear in. I know how to do X, Y, and Z. Great, but you don't know, doesn't mean you know how to run a business.
Very well said, and I appreciate that because that's the world that I live in, and that's a great stat that I'm going to reuse because I tell people all the time that a business has a mind of its own, and just because you're good at what you do, that doesn't mean that you really should be opening a business to do it. There are very different skill sets and different missions and objectives. So, um, Dan, one of the things that I found in going to these events is that you get to talk to other people who are in similar positions, and you get to share your experiences, your ideas. Talk a little bit about that because I know you also moderate groups that are around thought leadership. Um, Talk a little bit about that value that the networking at Total Tech Summit provides, because we're going to get into the sessions, but I think that the networking can be very special, and very powerful to people, and that's what makes bringing together the group that you're bringing together so powerful.
I couldn't agree more, Steve. The thing that's really nice about Total Tech Summit is obviously there are people in the room who are ostensibly competitors with each other. There are competitive barriers, but really when they get there, when they get to San Antonio this November, the competitive guard comes down. And what they're really trying to think about is how can I operate a more optimized business, a more profitable business, a more sustainable business? How can I enhance my company culture? How can I nurture my next generation of talent so that there is a succession plan to succeed me? The competitive barriers really do seem to come down. People recognize that they're among not just competitors, but among peers and friends, and they're willing to learn and they're willing to share. I see that in microcosm every month in our VIP to P calls, which is an exclusive video call that we do once a month for guests of Total Tech Summit. And we talk about profitability, we talk about margins, we talk about RMR, we talk about the slopes or the peaks and the valleys of the sales cycle. We talk about all of these things that potentially could be very sensitive, and people could say like, well, I don't want to reveal my secret sauce, I don't want to reveal my strategies. But boy, whether you're at Total Tech Summit or on those VIP to P calls, people are so forthcoming because I think they recognize that they're giving as much as they're getting, and they're getting as much as they're giving. I guess that's the way to say it. They're learning strategies, they're picking up tips, they're picking up tricks, and everyone comes out enriched and everyone comes out with a competitive advantage as compared to those who are not part of the Total Tech Summit community.
Which again, community, I think is the key word there. And to me, this sounds very similar to a lot of what James talks about with his Slack group, with his HETMA affiliation and involvement. Is many times we think our problems are unique, but it's very rare that you're going to really encounter a problem that somebody else has not already dealt with, and being able to have access to people to talk to is an incredible support group.
Yeah, and people who are just like you, sharp as a tack, entrepreneurial, interested, engaged in small business leadership. As I say, these are really cream of the crop folks. I mean, and that's not to disparage, the day-to-day business owner, but these are the people who are reading like sales enablement books and taking courses and maybe getting their MBA on the side. Like they're people really invested in running the best business possible. And I don't know how you could find yourself in a better situation than being surrounded by fellow individuals who are absolutely committed not just to technological excellence and outcomes in that way, but business excellence, running an excellent business.
The thing that's really nice too is I think that in the end, friendships come out of these types of events, and people are on the phone with each other for sometimes a lifetime beyond going to an event like this where they've met that person that they feel comfortable with, that they can share their experiences and they could also learn and grow with. It's very relatable in my opinion. James, can you weigh in a little bit on that? Because it sounds a lot of like what you have gotten through all the people that you've met in similar roles to where you are.
Definitely. The community, as you mentioned, Steve, the community is, we will all need to find our community. Us hired folks, we got the HETMA and the Slack group. Um, these are tech managers. Then you're also going to have instructional designers. You're going to ask the program where we are building the community for programmers. So every aspect of any kind of environment or group needs their community, needs their people. We as humans, we find our protection by finding our group and our community, and then we can build from there. That's when we feel comfortable and we can grow and build from there. If we're not feeling safe, if we don't feel protected, then our first step is always to protect ourselves, to feel safe. And that leads to, not doing well in other areas because our primary focus now is protecting ourselves. So we find a community. It kind of reminds me the story of the four buffaloes and the lion, or oxens and the lion. And when the four oxens were butt to butt, the lion couldn't attack them. They were protected because no matter which way the lion came, the one could protect the other. Then the oxen decided to go out on their own, and the lion took them apart one at a time because they were not protected by their community. So definitely a community is very key. Even business leaders, they're going to need the community. You don't get to that level of running a business and building without having people to help you along the way.
I couldn't agree more. And to your point too, one of the reasons why we wanted to discuss this on this podcast is that programmers, even though this is more of a business discussion, should not only look to find people that are in similar roles that can help them learn, grow, and also problem solve, but at the business side of what we do, it still is throughout all of the roles within the industry. And it's important to understand some of the business aspects and the how your role equates to the success of the business or the organization that you're in. Um, Dan, would you tell us a little bit about some of the sessions? Because I think you have some quality speakers and some really insightful sessions, which I'm sure feed a lot of those discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to echo what you said and what James said with kind of the parable or the fable about all of us being stronger when we work together. And that really is the vibe that suffuses Total Tech Summit. So we do have an opening keynote on the first day. Our speaker is Sonny Melendrez, who is a radio host. He's going to be talking about the power of intentional enthusiasm. And that's basically just approaching work as though it's not drudgery. It's not something you're just clocking in and clocking out of, but being genuinely and intentionally and and purposefully enthusiastic about what you're doing. I remember he shared when he was speaking with us in the interview process that he came across someone who was working a drive-through window who was just so enthusiastic about what they were doing and the engagement with the customer. I mean, that job of all jobs, you can bring intentional enthusiasm to, let alone something as customer service oriented and outcome oriented as systems integration. So he is going to be our keynote speaker. On the commercial integrator side, there will be a breakfast session on Tuesday, and that's going to be about entrepreneurial frameworks for running your business, things like EOS, for example, although it won't solely be about EOS. And that is essentially just the idea of having a mindful strategy, a mindful entrepreneurial strategy for how you run your business rather than making ad hoc decisions that don't have a process or a system behind them. Really, really excited to have Charmaine Torella as the moderator. She's a fantastic moderator, a returning guest. We have Sean Hansen, Jared Hillman, Alex Fortin, and of course, Brittany DeCessory, who works right alongside Steve as our panelists for that. Going to be a fascinating morning learning about frameworks for running your business and getting away from that ad hoc approach. I'm really, really excited about it. And then the next day, which is Wednesday, we're going to have a really thought-provoking panel about AI and AV, what the future holds for artificial intelligence in our community, both how integrators and consultants themselves can leverage AI tools, and also AI being infused into solutions that are actually deployed by our channel. And we have Bill Fonz, and we have Blaine Brown and Jerry Blaine, who will be our panelists there. And I'm delighted that my colleague Amal Reddy, who is associate editor who works on my team, will be the moderator for that session. So those are just three of the content sessions or tracks that you will be able to experience. You can look at the whole schedule at totaltechsummit.com. That's also where you can apply. So if you go to totaltechsummit.com, you can look at the whole schedule. But I think that gives a sense of what you were talking about, Steve, and what you were talking about, James. We're not necessarily talking about whiz bang, like this new hardware, this new software, this new deployment. What we're talking about is how can you use AI to optimize your business? How can you institute a framework to make your business more optimized and make your business more profitable? And how can you bring intentional enthusiasm to your entire team and to your organization so that it's not drudgery, but people are genuinely inspired, and that inspiration and that enthusiasm is infectious, and it just suffuses the entire value chain associated with your business.
I think that enthusiasm that you're talking about is very key. Again, goes off of things I've read. As Steve said, I'm a pretty avid reader, and it reminds me of I think it was a church that burned down in France or Italy, and they're rebuilding it. And the pastor was walking through, and he came across three bricklayers. So he went up to the first one and goes, "What are you doing?" And the guy's like, "I'm laying a brick." It's like, all right. He goes up to the next one and goes, "What are you doing?" "I'm building a wall." Goes up to the third one and goes, "What are you doing?" "I'm building a house of God." All three were doing the same job, but they saw it differently. And that value and that inspiration is what we as business leaders want to try to get. And I think an event like this is very key to help us learn how to inspire people that, work for us or who follow our company or even our customers.
Love these
I,
stories, James. I'm going to start calling you Aesop because you come with the great fables and parables, but they tell a great message. They really do.
I just try to remember what I read, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't.
that one is actually one of my favorite stories because I also recount that. It's because it's just all about perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 100% right. So hopefully for those who do come to Total Tech Summit and other kinds of business enablement events, as I see you at a lot of them, Steve, and I'm a big believer in the principle of, you know, building up your business and building up your acumen as a business person by going to these events. Hopefully it can provide some of that inspiration and suffuse purpose and meaning and intentionality and strategy in everything you do. And that's certainly my goal as a content curator at Total Tech Summit, to make it absolutely impactful. The last thing I want people to do is come to San Antonio, even if you're our guest and we're paying for everything. I value your time too much. Everyone in the industry's time too much to not give you something that hopefully is really impactful. We're going to have a lot of fun, and there's going to be food and drink and games and cornhole cup and all that fun stuff. So, I mean, there's the fun stuff too, but I really want when you all to go home to feel like I'm better empowered to run a better business and that I'm inspired and I can put ideas into practice immediately. It's not just a junket, it's not just fun. It's actually something that hopefully is going to transform your business. So I really hope that people choose to apply, or vendors for that matter, choose to sponsor, because the vendors are going to be there for direct one-to-one conversation with these best of breed integrators, and these are the integrators that you want representing your brand, because they're going to execute on projects like no one else can. So whether you're an integrator who wants to apply to attend, or a sponsor who wants to have a booth there, have one-to-one access to these best of breed integrators, there's just a lot of fun going to be happening in November in San Antonio.
That's a great summary of that. Will just add one more thing that having the opportunity to step out of your business, as they always say, to work on your business rather than in your business, is another great thing to keep in mind. And this is one way that you can really clear your head and probably come back with a lot of new ideas just from being present and breaking your routine. So having this opportunity and the one-on-one meetings with the manufacturers, yes, there is a little bit of value that the manufacturers need to get out of the attendees coming, but you also get that time where you can talk with the manufacturers about your specific needs, and there can be some great conversation had from that, and they are there to listen, and it's not like a typical trade show, so it's very unique in that regard.
You're exactly right. It's not just the typical cattle call. We have a select group of vendors, best of breed, select group of integrators, best of breed. And what they're talking about is really transformative for the industry and transformative for the outcomes that our industry builds its reputation on. So when you get in that room and you hear those conversations and you see those relationships blossoming, I know that in the months and years ahead, we're going to see some amazing installed systems and program systems and outcomes directly from our time together in San Antonio.
And I have also witnessed that a lot of the manufacturers sit in on the keynotes and the panel discussions. So even they see value in being able to consume the content. Um, Dan, this has been a great discussion. Thank you for being a part of it and letting us share this with our audience. This is a great event that I encourage everybody to consider. Even if it's not for this year, it is an annual thing. So don't discount the fact that you might want to attend or be more inclined to attend in the future. How can people get in touch with you, Dan, learn more about the event and also apply? It is quickly coming up, so the time is of the essence.
Thank you again, Steve. Thank you, James, for inviting me on, allowing me to talk about this kind of an event that I really do believe can be transformative for businesses. If you go to totaltechsummit.com, you can see the link to apply if you are an integrator or a consultant. There's also a link if you're a vendor who might want to sponsor and again get direct one-to-one access with these best of breed integrators. So that's it, totaltechsummit.com. You can, of course, find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on X at Dan Ferrisi Edit. And feel free to email me, dan.ferrisi@emeraldx.com. Again, dan.ferrisi@emeraldx.com. If you have any questions, or I can just point you in the right direction, I'm happy to be of service if this seems like something that might enable your business or your operation to be more successful.
And if you don't happen to be able to attend, please follow Total Tech Summit on social media, and you can follow them on LinkedIn as well. There's going to be a hashtag, so you will be able to get some of that value remotely as well.
Hashtag TotalTech24. We'll be all over it.
Excellent. And James, great discussion. If you have any uh, final thoughts or any takeaways that you wanted to share, and how can people get in touch with you and continue this conversation?
The final thoughts I would say is I hope our listeners didn't tune out. I don't think they will, but I could see, we could think that, oh, this is not about programming. Why does I need to listen to this? But this is very valuable. Being able to have an event, talk about business, and we say we want to get the voices of programmers out there. And this is a way to get your voice out there, is at an event like this. Get your seat at the table. You could be developing your own business as a programmer, or you could be working for a business as a programmer. However, you're going to bring value to it. So I definitely agree. Check out Total Tech Summit. Attend the show if you can. Follow along on the socials. Get all the information you can. If you're looking to get a hold of me, you can Google me. You'll find me. Anything HEPMA, higher ed, Twitter, AV_James King. Again, I'm out there.
Wonderful. And I agree with what James is saying. And there are programmers who are really very all about the tech, and that is fine. But um, consider the idea of going a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and this is a great opportunity to do so. And it might be something that you work toward for the future because it is part of a growth path. So for me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this show. So we offer some building blocks for programmers to either easily integrate with third-party products or have utilities to enhance their programming capabilities and the effectiveness and functionality of systems. You can find those at controlconcepts.net. And for this show, you can find our video version on YouTube, the audio version on your favorite podcast player. And we'd love to hear from you. We do have a group on LinkedIn called Ask the Programmer, where we will continue to have more discussions, and we'll be posting comments and episodes and polls and so forth. So join in there. Dan is part of that group, and one way that you can get in touch with him and find him as well. And we'd like to hear from you. So please leave us a rating, review, share your favorite episode, and we appreciate you listening. So until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.